We now have 4 mainline entries in the Xenoblade franchise, each with their own unique qualities and aspects, where they all feel like Xenoblade, but they all feel different at the same time. But what's the best aspect of each Xenoblade game? What's the one thing that we can look at and say, this is what this game does better than the other ones? Well, obviously, this is going to boil down to subjective opinion at some point, but I can at least state my own preferences, and I would like to hear your own thoughts as well. So let's go in release order and find out what each game excels at. Let's talk Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Being the first game in the franchise, it shows its age in various places, but what Xenoblade 1 nails is the sense of going on a journey, the visual progression, climbing to the top of the Bionis, with a visual representation on the map showing your progress as you scale this colossal titan is a great sense of accomplishment, and shows you just how far you have come. From being down on Bionis' leg, staring up to the rest of the Bionis and the Mechonis in the distance, with Sword Valley bridging the gap, to then crossing through gorgeous zones like Sertol Marsh and Magna Forest, you wind up at the very top of the Bionis, experience a great story, then march towards Sword Valley that you had seen since the beginning of the game, looming above you or in the distance. Then you fall all the way back down to the hand of the Mechonis, as all you can do is stare all the way back up to where you had been the entire game, giving you a sense that all that progression that you had made had just been lost. This is storytelling through the navigation and the world itself. Then you climb the Mechonis, but at a much faster clip, and that sense of verticality, oh my god, it really drives home all that you had experienced in this game. It's phenomenal visual progression, where pretty much everywhere you are and everywhere you go, you can see the result of all that you have done. Whether you are on Magna and look up to where Aerith C is above you, or maybe you're at Aerith C and have nothing left above you. That's a story all of its own. No matter where you are, just by looking around you, the game is rewarding all that you have done, and I adore that with Xenoblade Chronicles 1. When you first reach Aerith C, you look up and see nothing but clear blue sky. You feel like you have reached that mountaintop. That entire journey up to this point has led to that moment. God, it's so good. But now let's move over to Xenoblade Chronicles X, and what I love so much about that game. And honestly, it's the sense of scale. I haven't beaten it yet, so I'll only comment on the first 3 zones, but Primordia, Noctilum, and Oblivia all look and feel fundamentally different to one another, where you know, somehow, some way, you can reach anywhere you can see. It might require the freaking Armored Core mech you get later on, or some clever jumping, but if you see it, you can reach it. And when one of the aspects of Xenoblade that I've always adored is that sense of scale in its worlds. Having a game where it's not all just skybox or later zones, but locations that I can set out to and reach for my own personal reasons, gives me a sense of wanderlust that makes me want to just climb the tallest peak, not because it might have a reward or something tangible, but because I want to see the view from there and be able to say that I made it to the top of the mountain. Exploring the world of Mira and its diverse, extravagant landscapes is a feast for the eyes and ears, as the music evokes a sense of epicness and scale to complement the visual spectacle your eyes are in for, because the way to create an engaging and beautiful open world is not necessarily through visual fidelity. Xenoblade X is on the freaking Wii U, for crying out loud. But when you have a strong and consistent sense of artistic vision that emanates from every pore of the game, to changing weather effects and beautiful set pieces like Primordia's sharp, almost artificial looking mountains that curve inwards, giving you this sense you're on this alien world, to Oblivia's giant stargate juxtaposed with its vast ravine system, to Noctilum's varying levels of vegetation and elevation. It creates this visual contrast that I've rarely seen in a game like this, where no matter where you look, you're gonna find something new to look at. Your eyes never get bored. And sure, many games have beautiful worlds, but few of them have those giant set pieces and beautiful environments, while also allowing you to go physically anywhere. And each region, like Noctilum, Oblivia, and Primordia, they all have like subzones in them. So even on their own individual level, they feel different and unique to one another. It achieves what few video games manage to do. It makes the world feel large in scale, but also still enjoyable to maneuver around, thanks to its grid-based map that gives you fast travel to many locations you have visited before, while also giving you that freaking Armored Core mech called a Skell I talked about earlier, which is freaking awesome. Which changes how you interact with the world and how you interact with the scale of it. A mountain or cliffside you thought was once too large to leap over, now all of a sudden feels fundamentally different. You feel like you want to explore it all over again. It makes the world feel fresh and new consistently. And honestly, it further increases my own desire to explore the map, to expand my reach and network in this world. I can just log into Xenoblade X whenever and run around in its world for a bit. Do nothing, log off, and still be satisfied with the experience that I just had because its world is that fun to explore, because it understands scale, it understands how to maneuver around the world in an engaging and enjoyable way, and how to keep the visuals and the music and the feeling of being in that world fresh and new, no matter where you are or where you look. This is one of Xenoblade's strengths as a whole for the series, but with X, it's just taken to that next level, because of just how much freedom you really have in it. Now, as we pivot over to Xenoblade 2, I find myself struggling the most to nail down any one aspect of it than I did with the other games. It's my favorite in the franchise, and the first one I ever beat, and I just love the game to death, so narrowing anything down to one particular aspect is hard to do. But if I had to point at any one thing and say this is my favorite part of it, at least in comparison to the rest of the franchise, I'd have to say the feel of the game. It's a far more abstract reason than the other ones I have for the games, but it's the best way I can put it, and all it takes is for me to look at the back of the box of the game to realize the game's way that it blends comedy with the serious and emotionally jam-packed moments, the world of Allrest with the Cloud Sea and the Titans as they are slowly dying off, and the resulting tension and politics that transpire as a result, the main cast of characters and their relationships with one another, how different they are, how big of personalities they all have, how wildly different and aesthetically varying the world itself is, how each different Titan feels like it has its own personality. The feeling of Xenoblade 2 is one of extremes for me, where I can get either extreme comedy, extreme optimism, or extreme sadness and overwhelming emotion. Because for me, Xenoblade 2 evoked a broader sense of emotions out of me than the other games, and that is saying something. From the ending, to Tantal, to the Cliffs of Mortha, to literally all of Torna, the Golden Country, the story of Pyra and Mithra, Jin's story, Amalthus' story, Leftheria, 2 managed to bring me down further than most other games have managed to, and then raise me up in a way that I felt was more engaging for me personally than I've experienced elsewhere. The ending is still by far my favorite, and while many people will point to Xenoblade 3's Chapter 5 as the most emotionally sad scene in the franchise, I would point to those moments in Xenoblade 2's ending, where you thought it was all going to go wrong. That, to me, hit me harder than any other scene in the franchise. And I love Chapter 5. I have multiple videos detailing why I love Chapter 5. It's just that Xenoblade 2, for me, felt like it was designed with my interest in mind in particular. And that sense of adventure, Reach Elysium, was the perfect motivation to weave throughout the entire game for me. The game felt like this adventure where you wanted to reach the World Tree and then go up it to find Elysium. That simple goal, find Elysium, find paradise, weaves this trail of optimism throughout the entire game. And as it bobs and weaves its way through varying emotions, that almost childlike dream of finding paradise at the top of the world, there's something I just find satisfying about that, and something that just resonated with me more. God, I love Xenoblade 2, I really do. But let's go over to Xenoblade 3 for a minute, the most recent entry in the series. And it's another game where I can easily think of a couple things to put here. Like how Chapter 5 toys with your emotions, or how 3 weaves in those set pieces from the previous games. And honestly, I want to talk more about the gameplay, because what 3 managed to accomplish for me was to make the main party feel like a party, where you are always using Noah, Mio, Uni, Tyron, Lance, and Senna. You didn't have to pick any one character. to play as and stick with them and bench a few of the others. Because they didn't fit in the 3 character limit or the 4 if you're playing at X. I could use everyone at the same time on top of a hero of my choosing. And that simple mechanic made Ouroboros feel like the most unified party in the series for me. Because I was always playing as all of them, constantly swapping my characters, and that personally helps me get more invested with each character as a whole when I get to play with them all the time. It was always one of my pet peeves with older JRPGs in general, I'm not talking about Xenoblade here, where they would just give you a bunch of characters, but you can only use like 4 at a time, because I always ended up just leaving most of them behind in terms of XP, and I never ended up using them. So I only ever saw them if they showed up in a quest or something. But that's not the case with Xenoblade 3. I can walk around at any time with anyone, and it's so easy to swap them just with a 1 button press. Might have to cycle through them, but it's still easy. I can play whatever class on any of them as long as I unlock it. The sense of customizability and progression in the gameplay for each character was very engaging and satisfying to me. It gave each separate party member their own little journey of progression, which I found engaging. And in combat, I loved swapping to each character and getting to use them, and how they all brought something different to the table with the chain attacks, which further drove home their own personalities and character for me. It amplified the development that we got in the story for me. And it may sound simple and inconsequential on the surface, but it really helped make me care for each member of Ouroboros. And it helped me to really enjoy the combat, as I didn't feel like I was leaving anyone out. Because one of the surefire ways to make me start to care and really like a character is to just let me play as them. It sounds simple, but letting me maneuver around them and step in their shoes for a little bit, that really helps me engage with a character. And that's one of Xenoblade 3's greatest strengths for me. Despite the fact that it gave you so many characters near the very start, and you're supposed to care about them, since I could play as all of them, I did. And the way they introduced those characters and developed those characters over the course of the game, like sure, I want a little bit more from Senna, but on the whole, it was really well handled in my opinion. And it gave the game a unique but satisfying feel with the main party. I really ended up caring for Ouroboros. So I'm going to call the video there for the day. Those are what I think each Xenoblade game did better than its other peers in the series. But you may disagree with me. You may have your own thoughts and your own opinions, and I'm hoping you do, because I want to hear them. Please, down in the comments, leave your own thoughts and your own opinions. What do you think each Xenoblade game did better than the others? I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions, even if you only want to talk about one game in particular. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content and helps you find out when I upload next. So hit the bell to be notified next time I upload. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Stay safe out there, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Let's go play some games, shall we? Bye-bye, everybody.